Hi, I'm Dave Casper of Gladwell Laboratories. We're joined today by Dr. Tim Kosinski, general dentist in private practice in Bingham Farms, Michigan. He's also an adjunct clinical professor at the University of Detroit Mercy School of Dentistry and president of the Michigan Academy of General Dentistry. Tim, welcome.
Well, hi, Dave. How you doing?
Good to see you. We're here today to talk about your very first dental implant that you placed. I know that you have placed in excess of 8,000 dental implants over the last 20 plus years in private practice, but there had to be a first case. So talk to us about how you in private practice decided, you know what, I'm going to start placing dental implants. What made that light go on for you, and how did you get started?
Did you just call me old? Okay, I just want to make sure. Well, you know what? It's kind of a funny story, and I'll tell a couple stories. When I was a sophomore in dental school, 1982, there was a show called That's Incredible with John Davison and Kathy somebody or other. And I was a young man and watched that show, and I remember they had a doctor. I'm not sure who it was. It could have been Dr. Linkow, Lenny Linkow, I'm not sure. And he was showing this dental implant, this piece of metal that went into a jaw. And I said, that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, it just, on a TV show, literally a TV show. So I went to the library, 1982, there was not a lot of literature in the dental school library anyways.
No internet, I think.
And so I got some textbooks and decided to do a table clinic in dental school. So we did have a doctor, Dr. Paul Mentag, was one of my faculty, and everybody knew that he did implants, this voodoo stuff, right? And went up to him and I said, you know, would you help me? And so he made some suggestions. He may even brought a book the next week for me. So I did this table clinic and I won an award for doing it. It was a long time ago, 1982. And so it always made sense. So I did my residency after dental school, and I was able to work with Dr. Frank Bastillo, who was another implant dentist in Dayton, who I moonlighted with him as much as I could. I was in his office wherever I could, and he was doing blade implants and subperiosteals at that time under sedation, and it was a big deal. So it made a lot of sense. So when the residency was finished, Frank had intended me staying with him, but he passed away, unfortunately, and it was very, very sad. And his wife took me to lunch and actually gave me a textbook from, I think it was the 1920s. And she said, Frank would have wanted you to have this. And I treasure that book. I mean, so it's not new. I realize that it's not new. You know, the patents were, that you look at if you get the original patent stuff, it's the same designs, basically what we're using today. They just didn't have titanium. Right. So I went in, I worked with Paul Mentag. He hired me as a young associate back in 1985. And so I was able to observe him, the old IMZ system with Axel Kirsch. And Paul was the implant guy in Detroit, so I was very blessed to be able to see a lot of cases. But you asked me a specific question.
A lot of intermobile elements.
Intermobile elements, you know, and we thought we were something. And I remember the days implants didn't come sterilized. They, you know, you put them in the autoclave back then.
Right, right.
And my first actual implant case that I did all by myself was on my dad.
Oh.
And my dad was a great guy. Unfortunately, he passed away many years ago, but he said he had a partial that he hated.
And he was a dentist also?
He was not. He was a carpenter.
Oh, okay.
Same thing, but basically the same thing, bigger tools. But a great guy, and he had worn teeth. You know, he's an immigrant and had a partial he hated, and he wanted to feel younger and virile. And you know, I'd always tell him we were very close and about these things that we're doing, and he goes, let's do it. It's time. And he let me take some teeth out. We placed a whole bunch of implants in him. And an old friend of mine, Larry Sawinski, down in Indiana, restored the case. And it was amazing.
So how many implants did you place in your father?
I think it was 6.
So your first implant case, you placed 6 implants. I think it was 6 implants and a bridge work. At least it was a relative.
It was my dad. And you know, he was thrilled. And you know, we had issues with it. You know, at times, you know, the teeth were a little bit long, and we would shorten it, and those intramolar elements sometimes they would break or loosen. But he never complained. He was always wonderful about it, and I think he really appreciated at that time to to have something fixed in his mouth, even way back there in the probably 85 was my first case.
Wow.
A long, long time ago. And, you know.
So that case had to give you a confidence to, hey, this is something I should be doing.
Immediately,
for
it
patients.
immediately did. And, you know, unfortunately, Dr. Mentag traveled a lot at that time. And so as the patients came in, you know, once you got them going, you were putting them in, you realized that it was, you know, we were pounding them in at that time. It was different than it is today. Yeah, cylinders. You know, it was different. It was more difficult. But it was the office that patients came to because very few people were placing implants back then. You know, certainly there were very few specialists in Detroit placing implants. So that was my first one.
That's great. So you had, it sounds like only a couple of years when you graduated to when you did your dad's case.
Yeah.
And then how long after you did your dad's case till you did it on a regular patient?
Oh yeah, right away. I mean, immediately after that, you know, we just started, you know, doing them, and I would either assist or place, and certainly I would restore at that time, you know, many cases, you know. So it elevated my career. You know, I tell everybody 5 years because I mean, it just shot out of a cannon. We were doing things that very few people were doing. With materials that aren't nearly as good as they are today, not nearly as predictable as they are today.
Right, sure. A lot has changed for sure.
A lot has changed, all positive.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks for sharing, Tim.
Hey,
Thanks
I
for being here
appreciate
today.
it.
Yeah, good to see you.